You know, my favorite thing about Rimmel is how they accept you, no matter where you come from, no matter what color your skin is, no matter if you've had a terrible addiction like me and half of the church. But what I see there is a picture of Christ, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. And in Revelations 12:11 says, "And they conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. For they loved not their lives even unto death." By the word of our testimony. And I've learned when I give my testimony, it gives people hope. It gives mothers and fathers whose sons and daughters, family members are lost in addiction, when they hear our stories, and everyone has a testimony, whether it's overcoming cigarettes or porn addiction or drugs, alcohol, whatever your problem may be. It's when you share your story that it gives them hope. And it all started for me actually in my mother's womb, actually. My mother was using crack. She was using a lot of pain pills while I was in her womb, actually. And God had his hand on me the whole time because I actually come out a healthy baby. And it was when I was 14 years old, I began to use marijuana and alcohol. And it became a problem because I thought I was going to the NBA as a young child. Most kids, they have dreams. And I actually thought that I was going to the NBA. I was convinced. And when I got in high school, we started drinking on the weekends, started partying, smoking some weed. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to fit in with the in crowd. So I did it with them. And it felt amazing. And so I started using drugs heavily at the age of 18. That's when I began to use Xanax, and I began to indulge in them heavily. And there would be days that I didn't remember. And I'll rewind for you and kind of go in detail. I think this will mean a lot. And normally I don't even put this in my testimony. But when I was 10, my parents got a divorce. And my dad just couldn't handle my mom because when she lost her mom, she kind of had a mental breakdown. And she would stay gone for weeks at a time. And then my dad just couldn't handle it anymore. So he divorced her. And I went with my dad, of course, because my mom, she was, I didn't feel very secure going with my mom at that time. So I went with my father, and right before that, I was actually sexually abused by a 14-year-old woman when I was 9 years old. And I know I'm kind of bouncing out of place, but I normally don't put this in my testimony, but I feel like someone in the crowd needs to hear this today. But I was 9 and I was sexually abused, and it actually felt good. And I didn't even know that it was a problem. Even growing up as I got older, being molested by a older woman who was 14 and I was 9, like I thought that was cool. Like, yeah, man, high five, bro. I lost my virginity when I was 9. But in all reality, it actually kind of warped my mind because I actually was seeking love through sex, through forgot the kids are still in here. I started seeking that in my life, and that's all I was seeking for, like that emptiness, that spot that belongs to Christ, that everyone has. Every human being has that empty spot in their heart that belongs to Christ. And when you put other things in there, like the S word and drugs and alcohol, and you put all those things there, and it just never adds up. And it just continually, I would just on and on, just trying to fill this void in my heart. And it never got filled, ever. But I was 18 years old, and I ended up going to prison. There would be days where I didn't remember using Xanaxes, and I caught a felony for stealing of a firearm, and I become something that I said I would never be. I never wanted to be a thief. I would see people on the side of the roads that were homeless. I had become homeless. Everything I didn't want to be, the enemy had tricked me into being. And I actually didn't even like what I saw in the mirror. So I would try to escape reality with drugs. I would try to fill my life with that void because I literally felt like I was helpless. And I hated it. I really did. And in and out of prison all the way until I was 25 years old. In and out, homeless, sleeping on my grandma's porch, just ups and downs of life were just beating the crap out of me. And I couldn't even take it anymore. I was like, man, this is terrible. And while I was in jail, there was a man, his name was Jimmy Wagner, and he was doing some jail ministry in there. And he read the story of the prodigal son to me. And he told me, he said, man, there's hope. And he told me that Christ was waiting for me with arms wide open. And he said he wants to kill the fatted calf. He wants to give me the best ring. He's waiting for me. And it was that love that I had been searching for from the beginning. When my mother abandoned me, when I was trying to fill that void with drugs, I felt that day in that jail cell. And that night, I still wasn't very comfortable with anybody around me. So in my cell, there was a huge picture of Jesus being crucified in the wall. Like someone had drew it on there. It looked beautiful. I was like, wow, man, I was kicking it with Jesus for 4 months, and I didn't even know it. And it was like, and I looked over at that cross, and it kind of freaked me out some nights. I'd be like, man, Jesus, this is weird, But he was right there, and it was amazing. And I got on my knees that night after he told me that story, and I just cried, and I wept. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to John 3:16, and I'm going to change my life, and I'm going to give my life to you, Lord. Take my life. It's yours. I'm sick of living this way. And he did. And ever since then, God's given me a beautiful wife, an awesome church family, a relationship with my family. He's so good that I can't even put it into words. And Bridget, would you hit that one more time for me?
There is power
Yeah.
in the name of Jesus. There is power, power in his name.
That is great. But it's just such an honor just to even be chosen by God. In the scriptures where he says, you didn't choose me, but I chose you. And we're all children of God here, and it's so beautiful to be here. God bless you guys. Love y'all.